restless. I am so restless. And this changing world leaves me speechless. I am lost for words, but I kept my nerve.
Welcome to The Fallen State. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. I'm a little excited today because my good friend Ann Coulter is here. Ann is a syndicated columnist and multiple New York Times best-selling author. As a matter of fact, President Trump read her book, Adios America, and her most recent book is In Trump We Trust. I love that title.
E pluribus awesome.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're the bravest woman I know on this side of heaven. How did that come about?
Thank you. You'll think I'm sucking up, but I say this to heathen college student audiences as well. No, it's because I'm a Christian. Christians should have the most. What do you have to fear? The only thing that matters, you've already been given. Free.
That's right.
It's all taken care of. So what do we do on earth? We're operating with a net. We've been saved. That's done. Do the best you can, whatever happens.
And why do you think a lot of Christians don't get that, men and women? I've noticed that over the years they've been afraid of the word racism. They're afraid of saying people accusing you of hating women, hating the blacks, hating the gays, hating this. And so a lot of Christians don't speak up. Why do you think that is? I mean, they're Christians too.
On the racism point, which I separate from all the others, I think it is because Americans are nice people, and they do feel, I mean, America does deserve, or does owe something to African Americans, not the ones born to Kenyan graduate students, but African Americans. I'm not sure the left's plan to infantilize blacks was a nice thing to do, but there is a feeling that African Americans have a special relationship or a special place in America. They got the short end of the stick for a couple centuries. All the other groups, and I never understand this, I write about it in Adios America. What is it with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton going along with the Rainbow Coalition? No, you have all these other groups we owe nothing to coming in and trying to piggyback on the black experience in America. I mean, why should somebody who just ran across the border get affirmative action over a white American kid? But they do. Immigrants get affirmative action on college campuses. And, well, again, you could check with your prettier, younger, and smarter producer, but I think girls have it really good in America. The idea that we're oppressed. No, everybody wants to be black because they want to claim special rights and privileges. Take Trump. He hasn't said, there's no reason for African Americans not to like him. They say it's racism for him to want to limit Muslim immigration or to build a wall next to Mexico. No, not interested in racism unless you're talking about African Americans.
You know, I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama. I grew up under the Jim Crow laws, and we were restricted as to where we could live. I remember the colors-only signs, white-only signs, but black Americans did better then than they are today, when in reality they can do what they want. The thing that we had going on that we don't have today is family. You know, we had fathers and mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers. My great-grandfather was killed in his bed by a white owner from another plantation because he hired a black guy that came from that plantation. But not one time were we told to hate or blame. They said they were good and bad in all races. And yet blacks own land, they own businesses, they went to black universities, came back, educated, and we were moving forward. And so I don't see this thing where racism is holding black people back at all. I think it's due to the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character, and that the Democrats are playing on that. Rather than saying what it really is, they say it's racism, and that prevents many blacks, if not most, from growing up.
Oh, yes. Well, 3 points. One is, I can't believe you're that old. It is true what they say, black don't crack.
That's right.
Point two, I have at least a whole chapter on that in my book, Mugged, and the problem of single motherhood. And oh my gosh, you see it in the knockout games, the disaffected urban youth. What hope what hope is there for this large percentage of African Americans born into single-parent families?
Yeah.
And one of the studies I cite is from, and in a way it's hopeful because at least we see what the problem is and that it can be solved, from actually a liberal think tank, the Urban Institute, says if you remove the factor of single motherhood, the difference in black and white crime rates disappears.
That's right, 100%.
It's all a problem of single motherhood. They're not exercising Christian forgiveness.
That's right, 100%.
You got to forgive.
That's right.
You got to move on.
Absolutely.
Forgive white America and you can go out and achieve.
And especially the white folks who are living today, they had nothing to do with the past. They had nothing to do with what's going on now. And yet they are blamed and treated as though they were the slave owners or that they went over to Africa and brought the people back. It's so ridiculous. And you're right about Christianity. It gives you courage. It gives you the love that comes from God. And you know that all is well with your life. Were you raised by your father and mother, and were they Christians?
Yes, they both Christians. We had a little bit of, and they remained married their entire lives. They each passed away a few years ago. We had a little bit of religious warfare because father's mother was a Catholic, and it's the dominant gene, whereas mother was, she always get mad at me when I call her an anti-papist. She wasn't really an anti-papist. So there was a little, which was good actually. We'd, Thanksgiving and Christmas, my oldest brother always said that the etiquette rule that you're not supposed to talk about religion or politics was invented by liberal atheists because they know if people talk about it, they will become Christian conservatives.
That's right.
So we considered Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner a failure if we did not argue about both religion and politics.
So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
2 older brothers.
Really? So you're the baby?
And the only girl. It's a good spot to be in.
That's amazing. They treat you like the baby?
Yes, well, my middle brother beat up on me growing up. So, you know, when I hear these people whining about Guantanamo, oh, no, 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 you didn't grow up with Jimmy.
Do you believe that we are in a fallen state? My show is about the fallen state. Do you believe we're in a fallen state? Most people are now.
Yes, but there is so much that is not fallen. I was just telling one of my Harvard graduate, consequently heathen friends, about the church I go to. I try to bring people to it in New York. It meets four or 5 times every Sunday, minimum of 600 people at each service, and I'm the oldest person there. It's a mega church in the middle of Gotham.
The alt-right, you heard of alt-right and the ANTIFA. You heard of those 2 different groups, right?
Yes, and I had not until the first, nobody had heard of the alt-right until Trump starts running, and suddenly we're all members of this mass fascist organization.
Yeah. And so how much do you know about them, the alt-right first? What's your impression of the alt-right?
It depends. I mean, if it includes like VDARE, the anti-immigration website, or as we call it, the patriotic immigration website. If you're including immigration patriots, well, okay, I guess I am, but although, and if your viewers don't remember who Richard Spencer is, when he said, "Hail Trump."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But the media was lying about that. They made it,
yes,
you see his arm going up?
Yeah.
Well, from a different camera angle, he's holding a drink.
Yes.
He isn't doing this. He's
were
toasting.
lying about that. Yeah, I talked about that on my radio show. They were lying about that.
Yeah.
He was not doing the Hitler thing.
Yeah, and there were like 3 kids in the audience. Young people like to be rebellious.
Yes.
And 2 of them, at least the ones who got interviewed or wrote about it later, 2 were Jewish. 1 is this sort of wild lesbian gal, and they just thought it was funny.
I'm glad to see white Americans standing up for a change. For the last 27 years, they've been accused and accused and attacked, and white people bad, and white people this. You have the people of color, and not all, of course, blaming white people for everything. And we've had the knockout games and robbery and just this attack upon white Americans. And I've been telling white folks, you need to start standing up and speaking up and dealing with this stuff. Because when you don't deal with your enemy, you bring the worst out of them.
Yes.
And we saw that happen, especially under Barack Obama.
Yes.
And so with the alt-right, in any group, you're going to have some extreme. But I'm glad to see them standing up for a change.
Yes, and young people, I mean, it is sort of fun. Like I say, if they're just talking about me and my friends, well, gosh, I never knew I was a member of this group then, but if that's what you say. But you're absolutely right. It totally brings out the worst. And in fact, that's sort of the arc of my book, Mugs. My argument is that one of the best things that ever happened to Black America was the OJ verdict. Sort of counterintuitive. But the point of it is that was when, because the left wing and the mainstream media have so infantilized black people that they can do anything. They can burn down Los Angeles.
That's right.
When white America saw so many black people cheering the acquittal of an obviously guilty double murderer, nobody said anything.
Yep.
But white America just said, that's it, the racism bank is shut down. And that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to Black America. Instead of, entertaining these, various race hustler charlatans, suddenly there was this flowering of, you'd see actually, smart and talented Black conservatives on TV and on the courts and so on and so forth.
How about Antifa? Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, they claim they're anti-fascist. I mean, look at what happens when a conservative goes to speak. I mean, these Trump supporters, after there have been riots shutting down conservative speakers at Berkeley, these Trump supporters go to have a free speech rally. That's provocative at Berkeley, and it's always. I mean, when you're wearing black masks and carrying weapons. Yeah. No, this isn't speech competing with speech, which is the Anglo-Saxon idea. It's in our Constitution that we have free speech, which is why before I got here, I just got an email this morning I'm supposed to speak at Berkeley next week.
Yes.
And YAF, which sponsors the speech, they're used to dealing with all of the conditions put on conservative speakers by college administrators. You have to speak in the middle of the day when classes are going on. They want only students coming. Oh, and massive security costs that we're supposed to pay. Well, no, we're just speaking. How about you control your liberals? Anyway, what I suggested, and I think it's an excellent idea, is, no, okay, fine, only students, but we have two, and I'll speak in the middle of the day, I'll speak at midnight, whatever you want, but these are my two requirements. And you've seen what's happened at Berkeley. The chief of police is telling his police to stand down. You're telling me the chancellor of the University of California university system can't go to the chief of police and say, you will do your jobs?
That's right. That's right.
That's point one. No, I want the police chief to not tell his cops to stand down. That's how we had the LA riots.
That's right. And we saw that on tax day, too, this past last week. The police did nothing for the most part. They finally got involved a little bit. Yeah. But the alt-right was under attack, and the police did nothing. They stood back.
And I promise you, the line policemen are not happy about this. Right. It's always the PC chief of police sucking up to, well, what's political power in California, the Democratic left. Point two, an announcement before I speak that any student caught rioting, smashing windows, heckling, disrupting an invited speaker will be expelled.
That's right.
They do that, there will be free speech at Berkeley. If they don't want free speech at Berkeley.
Oh, sure. So are you a little nervous by going, knowing that these people would kill you if they could get to you?
Well, there's so many like that. I'm used to it.
Yeah. So you write books, and your books are all #1.
Not all, but all bestsellers.
I've never known one that wasn't #1.
Thank you.
Oh, bestseller. So do you just sit and just come, or how do you gather what you know to put into these books? And you knock them out just like that.
Well, I was just thinking about that because I'm sort of in the mood for writing another book. But it hasn't really hit me, and I wait to. Luckily, I have the attention span of a child, so I think that's why my books are interesting. I don't feel like, well, this topic must be covered in its entirety. I must go through the grain surplus regulations. So I just write. I read about what's interesting to me. I write about what's interesting to me. Usually, I have an overall idea. And then I buy lots of books on Amazon, I go online, I have a Nexus account, and I read and I read and I read, and I see if my thesis is correct. Sometimes books get discarded at that stage, or it doesn't quite I can't see what the book is going to be.
Since the early 90s, we've been fighting to get the government to put a wall around the borders, because by way of my nonprofit, we try to help young men find jobs, and a lot of these guys are not educated. And so what we did was we would put them out on the street there on the corners to get picked up by contractors and others, and they would not pick up the black guys. They would pick up the illegal aliens. And I found out later that they were doing it because they were paying them low wages, and they would have to pay the blacks more,
right.
So they refused to pick them up. And so I'm thinking that black Americans should 100% be behind putting a big, beautiful wall around the borders and stopping the illegals from just coming in, because they're ending up in the black communities and they're bringing drugs and crimes.
Yes.
And the gang members are supported by the drug lords.
Oh, yes.
And you would think that all blacks would be in favor of that, but because of the brainwashing of the Democratic Party and the media, they're not. And it's so unfortunate because it's destroying the black community.
Yes, it is. And there are a few things that would help African Americans as much as a wall and deportations.
Yes.
And it really is appalling how liberals act as if they are, you know, the big champions of minorities.
Yeah.
This is devastating the black community.
Maxine Waters gave a speech a couple years ago over at one of the local churches here. She said to black people that the Republicans want to tear down the projects. They want to take you out of the projects.
Fantastic.
Right. And she said, but I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to keep you in the projects you're in, and I'm going to build new ones. And the people applauded, yeah. I'm like, can you be that brainwashed? Can you be that dumb? This woman is telling them that she's going to keep them down, and they applaud that.
I mean, we see with this rioting, Ferguson, Baltimore, and so on, and just looking at the black teenage unemployment rate, yeah, black people need jobs.
Yes.
That is, I mean, that's what
right.
I loved about Trump. But a big part of it is getting rid of the cheap, both legal and illegal alien labor,
That's right.
and building the wall. And yeah, okay, you know, fancy Bel Air, Beverly Hills housewives like their Hispanic servants. They're very tractable. They clean like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
But don't,
right.
you know, don't act like you're the big humanitarian when you want to bring in people because it solves your servant problem.
That's right.
And that is the modern left right now. They
Absolutely.
could not care less about African Americans. African Americans are the shock troops.
Yes, that's right.
But as for jobs, oh, no, I'm sorry. We have Juanita the maid.
I got to ask you about men. First of all, do you see Trump as a real man?
Yes, in many ways. I mean, I don't, I obviously don't like the 3 marriages, but he's Trump. Okay, it's one off. Don't, you know, divorced Republican men don't think this is a pass going forward.
Right.
No, we're making a special exception for him. But no, I love that he's such an alpha male.
Yes.
And I mean, even when he was cranky, and I love that he was politically incorrect. It was
Yes,
like a retro
man.
1950s man, and nobody would really say that, but I think that's really appealing
That's
to
right.
people.
When he had first announced that he was running, and he said, I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall around the borders. I'm going to deport illegals. I'm going to deal with ISIS, wipe them out, cut back on taxes, get rid of regulation and restrictions. I said then, that very same day, Donald Trump will be our next president, because we haven't seen a man in this way in a long time, in the last 50 to 60 years. And he is an example of what men were when I was growing up.
Yes.
And we don't have that for the most part anymore.
Yes.
So
It was the
knew he would be
Mexican
there.
rapist line that got me. That won my heart. But I mean, similar to you, what I was waiting for, it wasn't the first day. I had to wait to see, is he going to back down? Because we've been betrayed so many
Yes.
times. Why? Because you're right. I mean, I don't want to sit back and be bitchy about men, but they have been beaten down, and gosh, a lot of men have become sissies.
Yes.
And
It's amazing.
yeah, it's not good.
I keep asking, how do men sell out manhood?
Yeah.
I can't see myself selling out manhood. I don't care what anyone says. And I don't know how they give in like
It
that.
starts from a very, very young age with the gender-neutral toys. And here, would you like to wear a dress, Johnny? And anything Johnny does, like draw a picture of a gun, and he's expelled. I mean, it is just the sissification of the American man.
What's missing in society, I believe in the order of God. And that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children. It's a spiritual order.
Yes.
And I saw that working in the black community when I was growing up.
Yes.
And then the government came under Lyndon B. Johnson and the civil rights leaders, and they said, okay, we're going to take care of blacks. You can't make it because of racism, but you're going to have to take the fathers out.
Yes.
And so they removed the fathers, and the government became the daddy, and the race hustlers became the leader. And so I have not, since that time, the ideal of masculinity and manhood and stuff disappeared in the black community. And now I see it disappearing in the white community and other communities too, because men have lost that idea of being a man.
Yes.
And a man is a man who loves what's right with all his heart, soul, and might. Because when he does, if he wants a family, he starts a family, that love is going to be passed down from God through Christ to him, to his wife. And I just don't see that happening anymore. And you're right, it is, they're being destroyed in the educational system. They're being destroyed by being raised by single mothers now.
Yes.
Because they're not getting that identity from their fathers. And boys and girls need that.
I also think that's part of the reason from what I hear in places like Sweden, these barbaric, probably terrorist refugees are really popular with the hot Swedish gals. And I heard about this and I thought, so Swedish men have been so pussified that, okay, yeah, he might cut my head off, but at least it's a man. Right. I'll take the Muslim terrorists.
Oh, God. So are other ladies or women asking you how to get past their fears and their emotions so that they can start standing for what is right as well?
I give them all the same advice. And, you know, I was raised a Christian. I always thought of myself as a Christian, except one time when I was like 13, I think I taunted my mother for about a week by claiming I was an atheist. But that was the end of my teenage rebellion. But it wasn't until, I mean, I think I didn't really have a big, like, epiphanal moment. But when I became a really totally serious Christian, there is just a peace that comes over you.
Yes.
Remember, nothing else matters. I brought a non-Christian with me to my church in New York when I was writing my third book, because it had to be written really, really fast. And I lived in New York, and he told everyone, because he wasn't a Christian, he said, because everyone knew I was, said, do you go to church with her? And he said, well, yes, because that's the only time I know she'll leave her apartment. I have to catch her on Sundays.
That's right.
I'd leave my apartment to get Diet Coke and cigarettes, and once every Sunday come down, walk to church, and go home again. And it really did. I mean, it wasn't like, the reason I thought of that was, it actually ended up helping, because you get uptight when you have a deadline and you can't think and you can't do what you need to do. But, you know, at least once a week on Sundays, I'd be reminded, this doesn't matter.
That's right.
It really doesn't. I'm going to do my best.
Yes.
And once you have that peace,
so
I mean, that's such a teeny example and not something that
it's
important.
So true.
But when it pervades your entire life.
Yeah. My father and mother were not married. So my mother married my stepfather before I was born, because it was an embarrassment to have children out of wedlock.
What a wonderful world.
Yeah. But inside of my soul, I had a yearning for my father. And when I would ask my mother about him, she, oh, forget about him, he's no good. So I started to resent her for that. And as you know, you become like who you resent. So I took on her attitude, her personality, and I became a fear and doubt and worry and all that stuff. Not from so-called racism, but for yearning for my father and not forgiving my mother for the way she felt about it. When I was 38 years old, I finally asked God to let me see why was I insecure and doubtful and had fear and all that stuff. He caused me to realize that it was because I resented my parents.
Yes.
I yearned for my father and resented my mother, and that kept me away from his love, you know, from entering into the kingdom. And so I went and forgave them, and when I forgave them, God forgave me, and he gave me perfect peace. He made me whole. And I've gone through more, as you know, I've gone through more hell in those days, but I see now that my battle is a spiritual battle and not a physical one. So when I'm attacked, it doesn't bother me on the inside at all.
Yeah.
I'm not moved by it. I understand they can't help it. I stand up and I deal with it.
I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun. I try to tell people that. When you are made whole, it's fun dealing with evil. It's fun dealing with people who hate you because personally, you're not moved by it at all.
Right.
I don't know any other woman like you that have that peace like that.
It's not hard to get.
I know.
I mean, as I wrote, I titled one of my columns Backaways because someone on TV was making fun of Christianity, saying something like, oh yeah, well, it's a good deal if you can get it. And I think I titled it, yeah, the best deal in the world. It's really easy.
I now understand how you can deal with it. You're not bothered by it. It's not personal to you. It'll work itself out. It's not a big deal. And that's what Christianity is all about. Not to be angry, not to be worried. Know that it's a spiritual battle and deal with it.
Yes, and Christians ought to be the most fearless people in the world.
That's
Everything
right.
you do, you're operating with a net. It does make me, wonder about the seriousness of a lot of politicians' alleged Christianity.
Yes.
They know they have to be Christians to get the votes, but wow, one little yelp from the Washington Post or the New York Times, and you are off on the other team.
Yeah. The president attack in Syria, was that a good idea or not?
No, I think it was a stupid idea, and the most terrifying thing about it is the claims, not contradicted, but by New York Times, Washington Post, and Ivanka's brother himself, that it was because Ivanka cried. if that's going to be our foreign policy.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. The Daily Mail had a big thing on it. And maybe this is just a slander, but Ivanka cried, kids died. But A, it's terrifying. B, on the other hand, could we get Ivanka a bunch of pictures of Americans killed by illegals?
Yeah, that's right. So do you think there's some talk now about replacing Assad?
No! No. I mean, no. I was the biggest supporter of the Iraq War. I think I had good reasons for it at the time. And my reason for not doing it again isn't that Saddam didn't have weapons of mass destruction. I never really cared that much. We knew he had used weapons of mass destruction. He wanted to acquire them. Who cares if he had the stockpiles?
Right.
That was just to taunt the New York Times. But I wouldn't do Iraq again for a different reason. Because of the last 25 years of immigration, I now live in a country that would elect Barack Hussein Obama, who would turn our victory in Iraq into a defeat and make it breeding ground for ISIS. Now, having done that, and most of my friends, not all, but most of my friends supported the war in Iraq. Not one of them wants to meddle in the Middle East again. It's never worked. It's always turned out worse. I mean, everything Trump said during the campaign, he was right on. Yes. And especially when it comes to Assad, I mean, he's this weak-kneed dentist. He's not some mass murderer. The Christians are terrified Assad will be taken out. They will be wiped out.
So is he listening to the rhino Republicans? And that's why he even considered taking this guy out?
I don't know. I'm a little worried about these Dr. Strangelove generals. This guy McMaster.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, he wants like a full ground war because it worked so well in Iraq and Libya and Egypt. No, it's just been success after success over there. Oh my gosh, can these people, what is that line about people who don't learn from history? I think it doesn't end well.
That's amazing. You know, one Sunday I was giving a talk, and I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. I was giving a talk about what went wrong in this country, and I said that when women got the right to vote.
Yes!
When they got the right to vote, they started voting in all these bad laws that go against family, that goes against the unborn child, that goes against everything. And I was attacked like 90 going north. But I think you said it first, because after I was attacked, someone started telling me, so I looked it up. You said the same thing about when women got
repeatedly.
Yeah.
on Politically Incorrect on ABC. And by the way, there were some gals up in the audience. If any of you remember ABC, it was the second highest rated late night TV show. There were some supporters for my position.
Yes. Yes.
No, it's exactly for what you were just, in fact, I was just going to mention it. What you were saying about how African Americans started voting Democrat because the government took the men away,
yes.
so the government becomes dad.
Daddy. That's
well,
right.
it's the same thing with women.
Yeah.
Women aren't such bad voters. Single women are bad voters.
Yes.
And especially single mother women are bad voters because they don't feel like they have a man they can rely on. So, you know, if it makes the feminists happy, okay, I'll blame the men for not being reliable husbands and providers. But that is what you need.
Yeah.
When you can't rely on men, you look to the government to be your husband. And it's not,
that is
but
so
it's exactly what you're saying. What they want is the welfare, the benefits, the child care and you know, family leave acts, all this stuff for the kids, or for raising kids and having the government be their husband. But what it ends up doing, I mean, it gets to be this inevitable vicious cycle where men become irrelevant.
That's right.
And that's what liberals want, because if there's no family, they can totally rule over us.
That's right. And it's so true, because right now there's a warfare between black men and black women because that respect is not there anymore.
Yes.
The government is daddy. These women don't respect the black men anymore, and it's a mess.
Yes.
Whereas before, the respect was there. You didn't always agree,
right.
but the respect was there, and it's no longer there now.
Right, and you combine, if we could get rid of welfare, build the wall, which, by the way, will create a lot of jobs.
Yes.
And
that's
those
right.
are good jobs.
That's right.
And I love Trump's plan on infrastructure. Nobody's pointed this out, but one big thing over the last year was ban the box, ban the box. Well, the boxes you have to check off if you've been convicted of a felony. And they say, you know, this discriminates against African Americans, many of whom are involved, as Obama said, in the, what is it, justice system involved? Was that the expression? Anyway.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, for some jobs, it makes a difference if you're a convicted felon.
That's
You
right.
can't be driving a Brinks truck.
That's
but
right.
you know where it doesn't make a difference? On a construction site.
I don't know how you feel about Steve Bannon, but I have a lot of respect for him. I've known him over the years. I've been interviewed by him. And now the Democrats, the media, are trying to get rid of him. What's your opinion of Steve? And does Donald Trump still like him? Is he gonna...
I don't know. I don't know whether to believe all of the media reports, but like you, I like him, and certainly all the things he's saying. Yes, it's true he only came in the last 2 months of the Trump campaign. So did Kellyanne. But okay, if that's what if you only want the people who were loyal to you, well, your only White House advisor should be Ann Coulter and Corey Lewandowski.
That's right.
And Jesse Lee Peterson.
I know.
We're the only ones.
Yes.
So, and I don't see Corey Lewandowski working there. So I do get nervous. And I don't know, why does any Goldman Sachs banker have to be hired? Why? Why, Jesse?
Too. I get nervous, believe me. I'm like, Lord, please. I want you to be careful when you go up to Berkeley. Those people are really crazy up there.
Well, I told you my two excellent ideas for our requests.
And so my final question, did you have fun?
Here?
Yes.
Yes, though I wish I had known I would be shot from the waist down. I would have worn a dress. I'm sorry about that. And I'm sorry I didn't come straight from Fox News to have my hair and makeup done.
Oh, no. You know, if you hadn't said anything, you look gorgeous. Really. And I really enjoyed talking to you again.
Thank you, me too.
And I'm glad we're friends, and I wish you well.
Me too. It's so good to see you while I'm out here.
Thank you for coming.
Coulter says she has no choice but to cancel tomorrow's speech after the Young America's Foundation, a conservative student group, pulled out of backing the event, citing security concerns. Ms. Coulter writes in her email to us, quote, "There's nothing more I can do. I looked over my shoulder and my allies had joined the other team. I think I'm still going to Berkeley, but there will be no speech." Liberal protesters will now claim victory, just as they did in February.
I am so excited. I can't believe it. Finally, the Fall Estate merchandise is here. Look at this beautiful shirt. We have red, white, and black. Comfortable, I like the fit. Really nice t-shirts. And we have mugs. The Fallen State mug. On the back it says, "Did you have fun?" Did you have fun? A gift. Excellent gifts, both. This is a great way for you to help us. Can you imagine your friends seeing you with this at the office, at the park, in your home? You're gonna love it. Order them now. Go to thefallenstate.tv. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Next time on The Fallen State.
Does white privilege exist?
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
And where's the proof of that?
All around.
What is it though? I don't see it anywhere. What is it?
There's all kind of examples
That's
of
amazing.
white privilege.
If you believe
Absolutely.
that.
What you see?
I don't have that dark mentality that most black people have.
Clearly.
She said clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for watching The Fallen State. We need your continued support. Donate to my nonprofit here. Subscribe and like the videos here. And tell everybody and their mama about the show.